If you're like me and you begin reading the newspaper with the comics, or if you've had a lifetime love affair with comic books, stay tuned for Focus on Art as we visit Miracle Studios to find out how artists go about creating these comics that have been so much a part of our life. I'm Barbara Cohen-Era. Kathy Kelly and Terry Tidwell are commercial artists and cartoonists that work here at Miracle Studios. They're my guests today, so welcome. Hi. We're delighted to have you for Focus on Art.
Thanks.
Well, we are in Claremore, by the way. We get around northeastern Oklahoma, but sometimes we don't get back home to Claremore, so it's kind of a pleasure to be here and find out that really exciting things that have national distribution are coming out of northeastern Oklahoma. You guys are just doing a great job. You're both into cartooning, and then you do commercial art too. What's your favorite? What do you think, Kathy?
I like the cartoon stuff as well as the commercial art. I do both the computer and the airbrush, so I'm mostly on the color end.
Okay, so you just enjoy doing color and you don't care exactly what the subject matter is?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Okay, how about you, Terry?
Well, I think I'd rather be doing the comic book work or the comics-related advertising work. When you're drawing an air compressor or a refrigerator, it's not as much fun.
Okay, well, I can agree with that. When once looking at the comics or the air compressor and the ad in the newspaper, I really prefer the comics myself. Well, what I thought we might do is start out and kind of flip through your portfolios and let us kind of have a look at what you're doing, let our people at home kind of see the work you do, and then you've both volunteered to show us how you do it. So that'll be kind of an exciting conclusion to the show. Okay. And Terry, I think your portfolio's on top.
All right. Well, it starts out with a lot of my comic book work. This is a page from a comic that I created with John Woolley, the writer, the entertainment writer for the Tulsa World. This is the Twilight Avenger. It was a book that came out about 4 years ago. This was my first venture into comic books, and it takes place in Tulsa in 1937.
Well, that's exciting, and it has national distribution, right?
Well, it's not being published now, but this is the pages from the Green Hornet comic book, published by Now Comics up in Chicago.
Okay, now Terry, you were telling me earlier that one artist may not do everything in a comic book. Some people do the pencil drawing, some do the inking, and then you do almost always do the color.
That's right.
On these particular ones, what part have you done?
Okay, this comic book, I was just the penciler. A guy that works with me named Butch Burcham inked this.
And when they give credits in the front of the comic book, everybody gets their name in?
Yes. Usually in a comic book, there'll be up to 5 people producing it. There'll be a writer, a penciler, an inker that does this black, not tracing the pencil, but the black rendering so it'll reproduce. And then there'll be a letterer and a colorist and an editor.
Okay, wow.
So it
takes a whole group.
It's almost like an assembly line process, but some of the better books, one artist will write it, pencil it, and ink it, and it'll be more one man's vision than an assembly line project like this was.
Okay.
Here's more work from that Twilight Avenger comic that was the first page I showed you. Here's an example. Here's a photocopy of the pencils, and then here's the finished inked version.
Now, what you have in your portfolio represents about 5 years of work.
Yes.
Okay, great.
More comics, but let me get to some other stuff. Here's while the Tulsa Sentinel was being published, I was the editorial cartoonist. Here's some examples of my editorial work. And this is a lot of fun. The drawing only took probably about an hour, hour and a half. The main work in doing editorial cartoons is writing the cartoon.
And deciding who to pick on for the day?
Yeah, and I mainly focused on Oklahoma issues, and so you can't get that off national TV, so you had to listen to a lot of local radio and read all the local newspapers, and then Kathy and I'd sit in here and brainstorm ideas. She's helped me on quite a few of these cartoons.
Okay, right here we have one of the original drawings, right?
Yes, this is one on the governor. You can see here's the original size I drew it at, which usually I work 1.5 to 2 times up so you can get more detail, and then it's reduced to the final size. Here's the tear sheet from the paper it was published in.
Oh, I bet it's really exciting to have your work come off the drafting board and go into the newspaper. Next morning the newspaper comes and there it is.
Oh yeah, it's great. It's great. Looking forward to seeing how it turned out.
All right. What else do we have in there, Terry?
Well, here's some work Kathy and I did for the NRA. This is a series of gun safety booklets which were distributed through kindergarten in the 1st and 2nd grades. You can kind of see a progression of our work. Here is my pencil sketch of the cover of the book, and then Kathy did a color rough, which we got approved by our art directors at the ad agency. And from there, we did the final color piece, which is really the way we work is it's in 2 pieces. We make a blue line of the black and white artwork, and then Kathy went in on the blue line, and if you notice, everything that's black on the original came out in blue, so you can see where to color it. And then Kathy came in and airbrushed this whole thing, and then we overlay the black and white film positive for the final piece.
And that's how you get those nice, crisp black lines.
Yes.
And here's the finished piece.
This was a kindergarten book. Each kindergarten teacher got 1 book, and it's big enough where she could hold it up in front of the class. We had a lot of fun working on this. I think we did this whole project in about 12 days, from original pencils to finished color.
How about the concepts? When they brought in the book, did they say, okay, we want a red eagle falling out of the sky here wearing tennis shoes, or are those your original ideas?
Well, Eddie Eagle was a character already existing. We redesigned him. They wanted some changes. At first he was a little short, mean-looking eagle, and we redesigned him to be more friendly. And then they gave us the script on this, and we worked from a script.
This is really exciting. I can tell you must really enjoy coming to work. What a fun thing to do.
So, continue. I do a lot of storyboard work, and storyboards, they're a vehicle that the advertising agency can get their advertising ideas across to the client as far as what the TV commercial is. And this is a milk commercial.
And this is done with markers, the color in this?
Usually, you can use any type of medium, but I think this was all markers and colored pencil.
Well, I get the idea. I'd be a great client.
And here's some comics applied to an advertising campaign for a tile company. And then this is a character, Perry Penguin. He's a mascot for a frozen food company, and we've done quite a bit of work on him. We did a series of posters of Perry Penguin, and Kathy did all the color. I think these look like animation cells, but they're not. They're Kathy's colors over my black and white work.
I noticed you reached right over there and got that color one right up there on top, Kathy.
Trying to clear away a path there.
All right.
Yeah, I have to put my stuff on top.
Well, I mean, I think the color is important too. All right. Well, now, Kathy, you've got your portfolio kind of underneath Terry's.
Yes.
Maybe we need to take a quick look at yours because we do want to save some time so we can see how you work.
Okay.
Well, Kathy, let's start with these pen and ink drawings. They're beautiful.
Thank you. This is some black and white art. I will start with the black and white and then move through some of the color work. And this is, like you said, with pen and ink, and this is a stipple style done with dots only. And then this is more of a loose style with squiggles.
Okay, and were these commercial art projects?
This one was. This one was done for the classified ads in the Tulsa World. Sometimes a home will sell better from an illustration rather than from the actual photograph. So they'll ask for a drawing to be done of the photograph of the house itself.
Wonderful.
And I believe you've seen Perry Penguin before. He was in Terry's portfolio. A lot of our portfolios are the same work. I've just added the color to it. And this is a special section cover for the Tulsa World and Tribune. This is the way the full page came out. This is a color key.
Okay, now is this what you sent to the newspaper? And then they do the color separations and that kind of thing, or do you have to provide those too?
No, at the time I was working for the Tribune in the World when the Tribune was still alive.
All right.
And I was in their creative department, and I created the work from colored pencils because they reproduced better in the newspaper. When you want strong color, you have to really come out with vivid, bright colors because they will fade back some.
Okay.
And I sent the work downstairs, and they do the separations there.
Okay, wonderful.
And here's
more
another.
for the newspaper.
Oh, yeah. And these are some color pencil work with the cars for the Tulsa Auto Show page.
Now, how about the layout? Did you do that, or did you just
Yes.
provide the art?
No, I designed the whole cover page.
Okay, it's a wonderful page.
Thank you. And these are some color work. Terry did the illustration, the art, the pencils, and the line work, and then I went in and added the color for the T-shirts that are at Tulsa City Limits. And we have two designs. We couldn't decide, and they couldn't decide which one they liked best, so they went ahead and went with two shirts.
Well, that makes perfect sense to me.
Me too.
All right.
And you've seen some of the Eddie Eagle or the NRA stuff, and here are two inside pages to the small workbooks. I don't know if they were shown in Terry's portfolio.
And these went out to kids in grade school, just gun safety kinds of things.
Right. The NRA came out with this concept to try and get a little bit of a handle on the accidental shootings that are occurring more and more these days. So,
What makes sense to me.
yes, I thought it was a great idea.
Okay.
It was a lot of fun to do, too.
Good, good.
And here's some more color work. This is Paul Newman.
Now, was he for a project, or did you just do him for fun?
Yeah, I just did him for fun. And this is Tilly. I saw this little illustration somewhere, and I liked it so much, I just recreated it a little bit. But these are just some quick direct mailers and newsletters and holiday cards. And then we have some work for Kaiser Rehabilitation Center. They wanted a generic emblem for a folder to carry all their inside information. And this is a series of brochures from the Hillcrest Foundation for their endowments. And there's 12 of them all together. We have 10 more in the works.
Oh, those are lovely.
Thank you.
So you kind of go from the very gracious here to the fun cartoons.
Right.
It shows us what a broad base your artistic talent really has.
Yeah, you really have to be kind of flexible and in a variety way, because you never know what a client is going to come up with and want you to produce for them, and sort of like being a magician in a way.
I understand that.
And here we have some of the Tulsa World and Tribune. Actually, they were only in the World. These are some ad pages, back page for the TV books.
Okay, I've seen those in print.
Uh-huh. And some of them, due to the quick deadline we had on them, like this part I would find in some clip art and just design around it quickly, whereas in others, I would have to illustrate with original artwork and then some computer work, and then find individual pieces of artwork, and this was just black and white work, whereas I went in and colored the background underneath, had it separated, and then use the black line overlay as we did in the NRA books, the same style.
Right.
It's a pleasing effect, and it works really well quickly.
Okay.
So it's helped a lot to do it that way.
Well, now you have some things that are a little bit different style that obviously were not done very quickly, and I'm just going to pick one of these up. And
Oh, okay.
let's take a look at this.
All right, this is a different style that I have, and it's more towards the realist style. It's a little bit more towards in the detail area. And this is my interpretation of an art director's life, or in the advertising business, I guess you could say. As you can see, here are the main tools that I would use. And I have my computer disk, a roll of tape, and my airbrush pencil, and the thumbtack and my blades.
Do I see a word in there?
Yes, if you look closely, you can see that it spells out the word hot, and which is used frequently in the business. And as you can see also, there's a little sticky note that says, I need this by 5, which is on every project, it seems like, when it comes to me. And if you'll notice, my little blade stuck in the sand is right at 5 o'clock. So I'm running pretty close to deadline, as usual. And here's my stick, and I'm writing in the sand the word deadline with a question mark. And as you can see also, it's at the beach. So if that gives you an impression of what I think of it, that life's a beach, in other words, in the advertising business.
Okay. Well, now let's see. You're going to go back to work, and then we're going to start with Terry, who's going to step in here and show us how he begins drawing his cartoons.
Great. I need to get some work done anyway.
Okay. Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you.
Now, Terry, you're drawing there with a blue pencil. Why blue and not a regular graphite pencil?
Well, I use the blue pencil because it won't pick up on the camera when they photograph these to make the plates for the comic. The blue pencil I use to do my basic underlying structure of the figure work and the perspective. And then after I've got that down, then I go to the graphite pencil and I start laying in the details. It makes for a cleaner look.
Now, is this the very first drawing for this particular comic?
Well, this is how I usually work. This book is called The Mysterians. It's a book that I'm writing and drawing. I've written the script on a bunch of index cards. This is the way I generally work. If I write something I don't like, I just toss the card.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay.
And then after I write in all the little points I want to get in the story, sometimes I'll have to rearrange parts of the story, so it's easier for me just to work on index cards. From that point, I go to this special pad, which is a series of layout sheets for comic book artists. And I do a set of thumbnails on each page. This way I can paste the story and not try to crowd too much in the front of the book. This gives me a good working layout to go from when I go directly to pencils. Here's the layouts for this particular page. I don't know if you can see them because I also drew this with the blue pencil. And here are notes. This pad has space for notes that I want to remember for the story in terms of dialogue or specific moods I want for panels. I'll make notations there.
Okay, it really is interesting, I'm sure, when you're writing this, to think about not only the written word, but the visual images, and which words need images to kind of give them stress or emphasis.
Well, for me, that's really the funnest part, is adapting the script visually. It's almost like you're a director for a movie. You have to think in terms of camera angle, lighting. You're your own prop man. You design the characters. For instance, this old man is a soldier in the book, and I've tried to make him a grizzled character with a beard and a tooth out, and it's fun making up the characters to put into the story. You have to think about camera angle here. I've got my camera in the middle of a big action scene with people fighting and throwing punches. And then here I switch to a bird's eye shot, looking down past a tree limb, down on the figure standing. And here's, I guess would be a close-up, a camera pan. This character's talking, and for dramatics, I bring the camera in the last panel for a dramatic revelation that he has here at the end of the page. And you also try to pace the last thing on the page is sort of a cliffhanger, or you bait the reader to want to turn the page to the next one. So you always kind of try to pace it where a little cliffhanger at the end.
Well, this sounds exactly like what our director does at the RSC-TV studio, with changing angles and wide shots and tight shots and so forth. Okay, now you currently have a number of books underway.
That's right. In March, we'll release 3 color comics under the comic book company named Miracle Comics, and this is our logo, which there's several people in the Tulsa area working with me on this. Scott Kinney, who's a real hot designer in Tulsa, designed the logo.
It's wonderful.
And these are just some pages from various books. We've got Mike Crutchfield, who's a top-notch commercial illustrator, doing a book called Aftershock, and here's some of his illustrations. And then we've got a funny animal book called Venture Rat. Here's a flyer that Michael and Scott created for Venture Rat. I have some of the pages from it too. This is a real neat book. It's sort of like Ren and Stimpy in its approach.
Okay, so you do the drawing in pencil, you ink, and where do we go with Venture Rat from here?
Well, we colored on computer, and by the way, this is not my work here. This is Manuel Carrasco's, a Texas illustrator. And from there, we scan these black and white originals into the computer, and we letter and color them on the computer.
Let's take a look at that.
Okay, sure. I think Kathy's working on it right now.
Well, Kathy, what have you got going on in here?
Well, I was just about to start adding color to one of the pages from the comic series Venture Rat that Manuel has produced for us. This is how I received the artwork in black and white version, and it's inked and ready to go. And then I put it in the flatbed scanner and scan it into the computer, and this is how it comes up on the screen. Once I get it to this version, I refer back to my references that has been provided for me for color, and I start creating color. What I'm going to do is turn off the foreground color, which is the black version, and I'll switch down here and turn on the Venture Rat color. And it'll come up. These are all of the Venture Rat, this character here.
Okay.
And I can scan in real quick, bring it up to size, and show you how each of the layers can then be turned on, and you will see how they all fit together in layers. I've just turned on the Ringo color, and that's another character over here, but all I have done in this one block is his coat, and then I can turn on the foreground, and you'll see how they all fit together.
Well, it's almost like a puzzle of color.
That's right, and you work from layers. I usually start with the background, see how they start coloring in.
Okay.
Now, you'll see on the Ringo version here that the green has gone on top of his hand, which is a tan color, which is fine. The hand is completed, it's underneath. What I need to do then is to go in on the Ringo layer, which is what I'm working in right now, and select this green coat. Well, it went to the foreground. Let me move Ringo to the top. I can also move these layers up and down all around and move this to the back. Just send it straight to the back. Now the hand is popped forward. I'll come out here and deselect it, and then move, once again, the foreground to the front, which is the black line, put it on top.
Okay.
Once I turn the background on, it's all complete. You can see how all the panels will work together in color.
Well, now this is kind of the new way of doing this. Traditionally,
That's right.
this would have been airbrushed,
That's right.
and you're still doing some airbrushing, so let's take a look at that.
Okay, it's right over here.
Well, Kathy, airbrush has been around for a while. I think of it as the traditional way for commercial artists to color things. But it is interesting that we're leaving this now and moving on to the computer coloring. But this still has to be fun.
Right. I still enjoy doing it the old-fashioned way, is what I call it, but there is you have a lot more versatile. You can get in with the details, and you can get in with different textures. And what most people have a lot of trouble understanding is how you get really meticulously detailed in tiny little areas. And this painting really doesn't have a whole lot that I would be concerned with. what I would start out with is covering it with a thin layer of frisket, which is this thin coating of plastic, and then it's covered. I went ahead and drew or traced off Terry's illustration. This is of the Twilight Avenger from the comic series, and this will eventually be a poster or a back cover ad or something like that.
Okay.
And then you cover it with the frisket, and what I do is burnish it down really secured. That is to block off all the areas that I do not want paint to cover. Right now the whole thing is covered, and then I have to come in and cut out every single detail in this whole painting.
So it's like a stencil.
Right, it's a huge stencil, and plus it's that way I can get the different colors butted right next to each other without the bleeds together.
Okay.
And what I've done, I've gone ahead and cut out the cape, and as you can see I have color reference from these as well. It's a red cape, and therefore I've come in here and cut out all the edges on this one cape, leaving this one edge because I know I want this inside darker. With the lightning flashing behind it, I need a shadow back in here, and I've come in here and removed it. Now what I do with that, I always take the backing that the friskets come on and I tape it to my table underneath. Once I remove the piece, I put it underneath and place it there. Then by getting my airbrush ready over here, and my color's already on it, if I don't drop my pencil here. I've mixed up a little red with some of the sienna brown. I always keep an extra spare board across right next to me so I can go ahead and check my color first. I never start out, and it's got some water in the line real quick. I never start out directly on my board, my piece itself. And once I get a smooth color flow, I move to my board and coming over this area, I'll start along the edges.
So Kathy, you're just going to fill in that whole area with a base coat. Now, if you want that to have like a shadow, it's just more spraying in an area,
That's right.
less spraying in another area.
Right.
And so what we're seeing here is you're doing the edges first and then feathering it out.
Right. What you don't want to do is come in and just color the whole thing solid. What I'll probably do is change colors later and come in with a second color, giving it some depth, maybe some of the deeper reds or brown tone to give it some depth. Now this one piece right here is a lighter piece of the shadow of the cape that has light coming on, and all I do is peel that up and then spray it again right next to the spot that I've already sprayed on. That way it'll give it a lighter shade, and that is already sprayed will just get darker, and it's supposed to be dark. See, the light is hitting in this area,
Right.
and the cape on the underside is darker.
Okay, Kathy, thank you so much. Terry, thank you.
Thank you.
It's been a wonderful day for those
Thank
of
you.
you at home. We appreciate your being with us, as always, for Focus on Art.